My name is Joana Silva. I am the head coach of FC Porto team here in Portugal since 2013. When I started, we had like 5 athletes, and I was the only coach available. And now we have 20 athletes, and we have 2 more coaches and 1 strength and conditioning coach. This presentation is about the planning and the work that we do in the club. So I hope you enjoy it. So this is the question that I ask myself a lot of times since I am a Boccia coach, and this is the face that I do when I'm thinking about all the things that comes to my mind when I think about coaching. So I will share to you some of the important things to think when we are talking about Boccia coaching. We have to think about the athletes and how many athletes that we have, which are the ages of our athletes, which are the classes, and which are the dreams of them. Then we have to talk about human resources. If we are the only coach, if we have more coaches, if our athletes have assistants, and if we have them in our practice sessions to help us delivering. Then we have to think about the facilities and the space that we have to give Boccia sessions, and if we have always the same facility, or if we have to jump from one place to another place between sessions, and that's it. Also, we have to think about the equipment that we have available, like if our athletes have their own equipment, if the club that we work have equipment to land, if we only have balls, if we have ramps, if we have educational equipment, and some things to make the sessions more fun. And also we have to think about goals, our goals as coaches, the goals of the athletes, and also the goals of our club and the place that we work. After thinking about all of these things, we start thinking about the season, and this is the first step to plan. So we have to identify the needs of our athletes or our group of athletes. Then we have to place them into the player's pathway, and because this is one tool to make our job easier. Each stage of the player pathway have different needs, and athletes have different needs too. Then we have to look at our country competition calendar. In the beginning of the season, if it is available, it is the best way to plan our whole season. And we have to identify what competitions we are working for. For example, our team will be doing the decision plan for all the competitions that exist here in Portugal, and some international competitions too, since the youth until like I said, until the international competition. But there is other clubs that have less athletes, and probably they are working only for the senior competitions here in Portugal. And after that, we have to make a full picture of the year, and to make a plan, so it is easier for us to deliver our sessions. For example, this is the type of document that we use to plan the season. As you can see, this is a macro, and it has the different periods of the season. We have general period, the specific period, and also the competitive period. And we put in this document all the dates of each session, all the micro cycles that we have, all the weeks until the competitions. We try to put here amount of focus that we give to the technical part of the game and to the tactical part of the game. And you can see that when we are approaching the competition, we give more focus to the tactical part. Here says jogo is like game, and the tactical part is increasing, and the technical part is decreasing when we are approaching the competition. And also in the same documents, we have the amount of balls that are thrown in each week, and we have the volume of balls that we are that each athlete is doing in the weeks, and this is a type of monitorization that we have for the volume of the sessions. And also you can see that the volume of the sessions is decreasing when we are approaching the competition, because we have to give more focus on the quality of the athlete abilities, and we gave them less opportunities to repeat and to make errors. So for us to build our plans, we have to set goals, and that goals have to be specific and realistic and have to be agreed between all the parties. So we have to set goals with our athletes, and these goals can be long-term, medium-term, or short-term. And for the next slide, I will talk a little bit about the short-term goals that are the ones that we will use in our planning sessions. For example, okay. According to the number of coaches and assistants that we have, the number of courts, and the equipment that we have. Okay, in FC Porto, we have sessions between 1.5 hours and 2.5 hours, and we divide the sessions like we have here: 10 minutes to introduction and warm-up, 40 to 85 minutes to skill practice, 35 to 50 minutes of match play, and then the cool down and review. Of course, it is not always like this, but it is the main picture. Regarding to the number of athletes, we have from 1 to 10 athletes in each session. But for example, if we are talking about an individual practice for the individual competition, we don't go up to the maximum athletes that we have in a session is 6. And if we are working to the teams and pairs competition, we can go until 10 athletes. This is something that we do in our club, but we realize that must be another realities in other clubs. About the number of coaches and assistants, of course, each club and each team work according to their human resources. So here we can go from 1 coach to 1 athlete sessions until 1 coach for 4 athletes in the maximum number. We have to adapt the plan. If I am working with 4 athletes and I am alone, I cannot plan exercise that required a lot of changes in the exercise. For example, a lot of changes in the balls that I put in the court. But if I am working from 1 to 1, I can do that. And also I can tell you that since COVID, we have none assistant in our practice. It was only coaches, me and the other coaches, and we thought that built a different relationship between the athletes and the coaches that didn't existed before when we have all the assistants present. But we realized that the assistants can also be a great help for our practice. Then about the number of courts available, we try to put maximum 2 athletes per court to the individual practice, or 6 athletes per court to the teams and pairs practice, because we can do that and it's easier for us to work like that. We have 4 courts available in our facilities, and we can divide the athletes as we want, and we can make the groups of athletes as we want to. Why do we separate the athletes? Because for us it's important that they can work in all the distance of the court and use all the box of the court without having to wait for the colleagues to go to the end of the box so they can play to the left or the right side of the court. About the equipment, the ideal would be to have one set of balls for each athlete, pair or team, but we also can share and have one set of balls for each 2 athletes or 2 pairs or 2 teams. The BC3 athletes, they must have their own equipment. However, if they don't have it, we can also share, and we can also lend some ramps that the club have, but we realize that is not the ideal for our team. One equipment that we almost have in our practice sessions is a timer. In the beginning it wasn't like this. We didn't have a timer. I used my clock, but the timer is really important for us to put the athletes aware of what they are doing and of how many times they use to throw each ball. So I can tell you that almost every exercises of us have maximal time to be done, and after the time is ended, the athletes cannot throw any more balls, and we start again another exercise or the same exercise, but in another time. Also, it is important to have the refereeing equipment and some educational or additional equipment like targets and buckets and spires to make the practice more fun, especially if we are working with children. Now about the structure of the plan. Here is the sequence that we use, like introduction, warm-up, skill practice, match play, cool down, and review. This is the sequence that we also use, and this template is the BSFED template about the session plans. It is a really easy template to use. It is similar to the physical education teachers plans, and anyone can use it. In our club, we made a little changes, and we don't use it, but I will show you next. Also, I can tell you that the sequence of the plan can be changed along the season. So, for example, if we are in the beginning of the season, we will have some more time to skill practice and less time to match play. But if we are approaching the competition, maybe I will start my practice with a match play, and then I will pick some situation from the match play and do some skill practice, and then I will do a match play again. So this is not fixed, or this is not mandatory, and we can go from one sequence to another and it still works. Here I can show you the plans that I did in the beginning of my practices. When we have less athletes, we used to do one plan for each athlete, And for example, if I had 4 athletes in one session, I would have 4 different plans for each athlete and 4 different papers for them. A lot of my plans were made written in paper. Some of them were on the laptop, but the team started to grow, and it became impossible for us to do things like that. So we started to do something like this. This is also not the actual plan, but this is a easy way to plan for more than one athlete. For example, here we can put the main goals of the session. We put the classes of the athletes present. We put the duration of the session, and then we made a little plan for each athlete, saying and showing the organization of our facility. For example, I have 4 athletes, and each athlete is in one different court. Each athlete is in their own box, and each athlete is doing their own plan. It is different. The throwers plan is different from the BC3 plan, also because the times used for each class will be different. This we made one document of this for each session, but we evolve from this plan to this one, and this season we started to use this because we made groups of athletes, and each group of athletes has different number of sessions per week, and we started to do one of these documents for each group. So this is the first group of athletes that we have. They have sessions all days of the week, and some of the days they have two sessions, and it's easier for us to see what they will do along the week if we do it in the same sheet. So this is something that we do weekly for every groups of athletes that we have. Also, we have here the number of balls they throw in each session, and we have that in the macro cycle that I show you before about the season. And this is not, I couldn't make a print screen of all the plan, but in the end of this plan we have a box for notes where we put the highlights of the session, and we put things that went well and that went not so good, so we can change the plans in the next sessions. And I also can tell you that this is made on online. So as we are like 4 coaches, we do this online, and every one of us has access to the plans, and everyone can share their opinions and can help us build the document. And then when we are putting the plan in practice, we know, all of us know what we want with each exercise. About putting the planning in practice, we have to consider that how will we set in each exercise, how will we organize each exercise along the time, how will we be positioned between the exercise and the athletes, and how will we do this progressively since the beginning of the session until the end. Also, when we are putting the plan in practice, we cannot forget what is the main goal of the session, because for us coaches is really easy to see everything that is going wrong in our athletes, and we have to focus on correcting one thing at a time. And if the main goal of my session is the setup of the wheelchair, maybe that is the thing that I will feedback the most, and not the tactical part of what the athlete chooses to do in some situation. In the end of the session practice, we have to do the review with the players about their performance, and share with them what went well, share with them what they could do better next time, and also made a little bit of self-reflection and think about what we can do differently in the next sessions. And for example, we do the weekly plan in the beginning of the week, but we can change the plan, because if something is not working in the beginning of the week, we can change it along the week, so that our athletes have more success. And I can share to you that since the moment that we started to plan the sessions with a little bit more effort, it became really easier for us to put the sessions in practice and to work as a team. And instead of losing time, we are gaining time, because we are doing things more professionally, and it is really easier for us to put the plans in practice if they are if they are done before. And also we cannot forget that regardless of the level of our athletes, we should do that so the young athletes can reach some better level in the future, and we cannot focus only on the elite athletes to do this type of work. If they are used to this since the beginning, they will be better athletes.